I appreciate the tensions between what's good for workers and what's good for business owners. And I see this bill as very serious, and I see it as an inflection point. We're gonna look back on this vote a few years from now, and we're gonna see which side of the debate was correct. We're gonna find reverberations that will be very significant, and we're gonna enjoy what I call the law of unintended consequences. You'll find out things that this will cause that we hadn't even talked about here in the debate. 22 years ago, after I predicted the bankruptcy of the County of Orange, newspapers like the LA Times and the Wall Street Journal gave me names like Cassandra and Jeremiah. And so 16 years ago, I was very public and said the passage of SB 400 in 1999 will have significant financial impacts. And SB 400 was the 3% at 50 bill. And now we're seeing cities suffer and going into bankruptcy. And I just want to import that this bill will have major negative impacts, I believe, on the state of California. And once you vote for it, even though you have a pause button, you can't go back. This vote is so critical, you cannot go back. So with rising wages, you have rising workers' compensation insurance, you have payroll taxes. This state hasn't even paid off its FUTA liability, the federal unemployment tax. Our employers are already paying a premium with just 2 other states that's higher than any of the other 47 states just because we're behind in paying our balance due to the federal government. And we're going to have higher Social Security taxes that the owners have to pay. So one businessman emailed me last night, and he said, I have a spa, I have 30 employees, and I did the math, and I decided this weekend I'm not opening a second location. There's 30 jobs. You will see a lot of businesses probably go underground, start paying more cash. An area that this state really needs to focus on is trying to prevent the underground economy from prevailing. But what happens is when you have a business that is underground is that it outbids and takes business away from our honest businesses that are paying all the costs of employing people. So we are either going to drive them out or we're going to drive them under. Now, as to business owners, if you look at the data from the state, currently 17% of our taxpayers pay 87% of the personal income taxes, less than 1 in 5. And the personal income tax is 65% of the revenues that this state receives to fund its budget. So if you raise those expenses on the producers and the risk takers, you're going to find that they're going to have lower taxable incomes. You're going to see a net reduction in our revenues. And then we're going to come along with other fine bills that'll do great things. We're going to do Senate Bill 1234, which will encourage or mandate that certain employers have pension plans, which will be another cost. And then we're going to raise tobacco taxes, and then we're going to raise gas taxes. But you're going to see your tax revenues go down net. They will not increase. So colleagues, California already has a net migration out. The data is there. We're talking about looking at data. In California, for the first time since World War II, has a declining school enrollment. Something is happening in this state. And cramming down a minimum wage increase will damage an already fragile economy. If you look at the statistics just from LA County alone, they haven't improved in almost a decade. So thank goodness that California has Silicon Valley. So once taxpayers wake up and see their newspaper headlines tomorrow morning, the business owners are going to go, is this an April Fool's joke? Really? An increase in the minimum wage of 50%. We're not talking from $7.15 to $7.50. We're not talking 35-cent pay increase. We're talking a 50% increase. And they will do the math. And when you do the math, you realize that you're going to have to raise your prices 20% to cover the increased cost and the expected loss of clients. So what does that do to retirees on a fixed income? So this solution may help some, but I believe it will hurt many, many more. Your governor, your Department of Finance, your Legislative Analyst Office, they've all publicly published remarks about what a minimum wage increase will do to the state of California. The Department of Finance, this would lead to slower personal income growth and an anticipated negative impact on taxes collected. The governor just recently said higher minimum wage laws are not free. They raise the operating costs of many businesses, and the state must shoulder higher wages in its programs. And the Legislative Analyst Office said this measure likely would reduce the number of jobs in the California economy. I don't know if these are partisan, just alone, and as a supervisor, we were kind of glad that at the county, the state decided to assume negotiating for in-home support services. And they were pretty much just making a little bit over minimum wage, and we knew that minimum wage was going to rise, so we knew the state was going to be responsible for negotiating it. But even the governor is saying that a minimum wage increase will impact our state budget in the next 3 or 4 years by billions. I mean, it was a $4 billion number in one document. So that's my prediction. I don't see this as just a minor wage increase that we've sustained over decades of time. I see this as massive. I see the future is not very bright. And I think that if the governor signs this into law, instead of fighting the ballot measures and defeating them, that we're going to have, like I said, a major inflection point in our state's history. Colleagues, I'm opposed to SB 3 and its amendments. Thank you, Mr. President.